I call this meeting of Township High School District 211 Board of Education to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Dombrowski.
Here.
Mr. Hinshaw.
Here.
Mrs. Klimkowitz.
Here.
Mr. Lefevre.
Here.
Ms. Recker. Mr. Young.
Here.
Mrs. Burke.
Here. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you and good evening. We'll begin tonight's meeting with recognitions. Dr. Cates.
Welcome to everyone. We're very pleased tonight to be able to recognize some very talented students, teachers, and of course, many of you as parents as well. This time I'd like to ask Director of Athletics and Activities, Eric Winkowski, to the podium.
Board of Education and Dr. Cates, thank you for taking time to honor some really talented students. Students, as your sponsor introduces you, I'm going to ask that you walk up here and stand next to the podium to receive your award. Additionally, I'm going to ask any family members that are here, the students, as they're introduced, to please stand up and be recognized with your student. Helping present the awards tonight with me are Palatine Assistant Principal Mike Alter and Fremd Assistant Principal Eric Dolan. And we'll get started. Grant Dawson is here. He is in his 6th year of teaching at Fremd High School in the English department. And Grant is also a proud graduate of Palatine High School.
Go Pirates and Vikings. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, thank you for giving us the opportunity to recognize our students tonight. It is my pleasure to present 3 outstanding journalists to you today. Fremd was lucky enough to send 6 students to the state tournament for journalism, and there were 3 students, 2 that are present tonight, that contributed to our result, which was tied for 4th place. I was impressed by these students' poise in the midst of pressure and their passion for the ever-important art of journalism. What I feel is equally impressive is that the 3 medalists I'm presenting here tonight are all first-time state competitors, which is impressive. Parents, please stand as your student is recognized. Junior Tim Moran couldn't join us tonight, but he was a first-time state competitor that took home a 5th place medal for headline writing. Sophomore Jiyun Huang is joined by her mother, Misuk. Jiyun took 5th place in the very competitive news writing category. Junior Matt Grabianski is joined by his mother, Jennifer. Matt accomplished the very rare feat of taking first in both of the events that he competed in, which are sports writing and copy editing. So if you need anything edited, there is no better student in the state of Illinois than Matt to edit those for you. I'm so proud of these students' accomplishments, and I appreciate you again for giving us the time to recognize them tonight. Thank you very much.
Next, we have a duo from Palatine High School for FCCLA. Corey Hibner, she's been teaching in the District 211 for 15 years, and she is currently the Department Chair of Family and Consumer Science at Palatine High School. Joining her also is Chris Starry, who's been teaching for 14 years in District 211, and she currently teaches early childhood studies and early childhood education programs at Palatine High School.
On behalf of both Chris and myself and our students, we'd first like to thank the board and our administrators for your continued support of our program. It's really fun for Chris and I to watch these students compete, and not just something that they're passionate about, but something that they plan to pursue as a career as well. This year we took 13 students to the state competition for Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America. And we have with us tonight our 7 first place finishers.
So first up, very excited, is Bella Colucci. She's here tonight with Mom Joanne, and go ahead and stand up, and Sister Rosie. Bella took first place in preschool lesson planning. And Jenny Klein is up next. She's here tonight with Mom Michelle. Go ahead and stand up. She took first place in professional child care provider. Then after Jenny is Rachel Maniscalco. She's here tonight with Mom Karen. Go ahead and stand. Rachel took first place in children's literature presentation. And Chloe Sarnell is here with Mom April. And she also took first place in children's literature presentation. Lauren Schiller is up next. She's here tonight with Don, Carol, and Grandma Nana Marianne. She took first place in preschool lesson planning. And last but not least is Allison Walsh. She's here tonight with Ed and Mary Claire, Mom and Dad. And she also took first place in children's literature presentation. She and Chloe were partners. We look forward to another successful season next year. A lot of these lovely ladies are coming back, so we'll see you again next spring.
All right, next we have Matt Moore. Matt Moore has been the director of bands at Fremd High School for the past 15 years and has been the music department chair for the past 4. Under his direction, the Fremd bands have received numerous awards and accolades for their symphonic, jazz, and marching band performances. Matt.
Thank you very much, Mr. Winkowski. Good evening to Dr. Cates, Dr. Small, and the District 211 School Board. I'd like to take a moment to thank you very much for your continued support of the District 211 music departments and for recognizing our 2 musical ensembles that are here tonight. The students that I am announcing tonight are members of the Fremd Jazz Ensemble, which is our top extracurricular jazz band at Fremd High School, which traditionally rehearses and performs November through February each year. The band rehearses 2 days a week after school and is primarily made up of juniors and seniors, although we do have some freshmen and sophomores, as you'll find out soon here, that also make the band talented freshmen, I will add. We auditioned back in March 2016 to be selected as a featured jazz band to perform at the Illinois Music Education Association Music Education Conference. It's a mouthful, but we like to call it the All-State Conference. A lot easier to say that. The auditions are anonymous, meaning that the submitted recording cannot identify the ensemble or the school in any way. Each year, ILMEA selects 4 to 5 middle school, high school, or collegiate jazz bands to perform at the conference. This year, we were very proud to be the only high school band that was selected, and they had middle school and collegiate bands performing down there as well. Auditions for this year's band occurred in August. And it consisted of 9 returning members from the previous year and 11 first-time members. Rehearsals started in September instead of our traditional November in order to adequately prepare the ensemble for the All-State Conference. I couldn't have been prouder of our jazz ensemble students for their musical talent, perseverance, and dedication in preparing for this very special event. At the actual performance, which was in January in Peoria, we were very fortunate to have a packed house of music educators, the Symphony Orchestra Strings, which we're also recognizing tonight, parents, family members, and other performing ensembles that were at the conference. We also shared the concert with the Bradley University Jazz Ensemble, which added to the enjoyment of the whole event. A month later, the students convinced me to program a whole new set of music for the Rolling Meadows High School Jazz in the Meadows Festival, which is commonly regarded as the most prestigious jazz festival in the Midwest. And with their hard work, they were awarded with a first place rating by the college band director adjudicators, which was quite the excitement, as you can imagine, doing all-state and then also getting top honors at that event. Teaching these students and seeing all that they accomplished this year has truly been one of my all-time career highlights over 16 years at Fremd High School. A sincere thank you to every member of the Jazz Ensemble for your incredible talent, dedication, and enthusiasm for learning jazz by performing in this year's Jazz Ensemble. I'd also like to ask the Jazz Ensemble parents in attendance to stand when I recognize your son or daughter. Thank you to the parents for all that you've done to support your son or daughter's musical education at Fremd High School. We have 4 members that I want to recognize that couldn't be here tonight, unfortunately. 2 of our senior trumpet players, two of our members are at the Devil's Lake field trip with our Adventure Ed class, so they're on the way home right now. So Jason Bias and Tom Morell on trumpet, and then our 2 percussionists and drum set players, Jacob Cushman and Kyle Parciani. We appreciate all that those 4 guys have done for the group as seniors. I'm going to start with, we have a freshman quartet actually, but it's a freshman trio. Our two bass players need to get back in line for the symphony orchestra strings, so that's why I'm having them go first. Gage Bachman and Joey Ranieri, and then on piano we have Justin Chang. Looking at our saxophone section, we have two alto saxophones, Janet Kim, Kevin Lee, two tenor saxophones with Gotham Arun and Ryan Groach, and one bari saxophonist with Alex Van Roon. The fourth member of the freshman quartet, we have freshman trombonist Colin Ariagno, and then continuing with the trombone, Stephen Boulay, Kevin Eichelberg, Isaac Freilish, and Jacob Legitsky. And closing with our trumpets, we have Sylvia Elderington, James Geist, and Andrew Yankee. Thank you again very much for this wonderful honor recognition for our students.
And with our final group of students tonight is Marla Caballeros. Marla's in her 23rd year of teaching music in District 211. She began at Palatine and Fremd High School. During her time at Fremd, she's gone from 8 students making music daily in the orchestras to over 100 students in 4 different orchestras. In 2014, Marla was named the Outstanding School Teacher in Illinois of the Illinois chapter of the American String Teachers Association. And Marla is also a proud graduate of Fremd High School.
Good evening, and thank you again, as the others have stated, for taking time to recognize our students. That's why we're here. This year has been a very exceptional year for Fremd Symphony Orchestra. We have been able to perform some really rigorous, challenging music that I've never been able to do with a group before, music that most college groups would be doing with their ensembles. So I'm very proud of these students. Our audition process was very similar to what Matt explained, so I'm not going to go into more detail on that. But it was so nice to see so many of the board members and administrators at our concert in January, and of course the parents that were there as well, as we got ready for our all-state performance. And then when we got down to Peoria, I think that experience, I've always gone to that conference, and I've had the opportunity to watch other and listen to other ensembles perform, and it's like, I don't know if I'd want to do that. It's a lot of stress, that's a lot of work. And a friend of mine from Barrington High School, who we shared a concert with, he said, let's do this, and then we were emailing each other, why did we do this? And so I think in the rehearsal process, we kind of felt the same way, a little tug and pull, but we've learned a lot through that process as well. And I really could not be prouder of the students that I will have the opportunity to introduce you to. One of the things that I like to do is I always like to find out, what did you get out of that experience? I know what I got out of it, but what did you get out of it? So what some of the students said, as the orchestra prepared for this performance, I learned that we might think that something is impossible, but in the end, we play the piece at an exceptional and outstanding level. For example, I think that when we got the Tchaikovsky, we were pretty overwhelmed and thought that in the short amount of time that we had, we were not going to be able to play this piece. But during the final performance, we were able to play even the hardest parts we were dreading to play, and we also received a standing ovation and compliments from several different people. Somebody else said, one of the other students said, we played Tchaikovsky from our heart. I could tell all of us were able to feel the depth of this piece. And whenever I'm trying to plan repertoire, it's like I pick stuff that I'm going to want to keep working on because I know that it's something that we're going to be doing for a long time. But it's always such a joy when the students feel that way too. One of the things that I also received were several comments actually on Facebook from friends who were at that conference. Some of the students, and I actually haven't shared this with them yet, but one of the comments was, congratulations to the Frem Symphony Orchestra on a phenomenal performance this morning at the ILMEA All-State Conference. Such wonderful musicality and passionate playing from all. Exceptional performance, sensitive playing of difficult literature. You held tempo and intonation throughout, which was fantastic to hear. Your kids sounded fantastic. Thank you for bringing them down and having them share their music. And then somebody else said, it was amazing and inspirational. I teared up at the beginning of Serenade when a few of your students looked up at you with huge smiles. Brava to you and those kiddos. So at this time, I'd like to introduce them to you, but obviously words can't really express the music, but we were very proud of them for sure. So we have several students that are here tonight, some that were not able to make it tonight due to many different conflicts, but I'd like to introduce Senior Ben Matthew. And Ben plays the cello, and he's off to another rehearsal. Freshman bassist Gage Bachman. Senior violinist Stephanie Bay. Senior violist Lauren Cardoza. Lauren was also one of our all-state musicians. Andres is not here. Devin Dion, senior violist. Andrew Y. Huang, senior violinist. Sophomore cellist Jiun Huang. Senior violinist Andrew S. Huang. Senior violinist Enoch Kim. Senior violist Lizzie Lopez. Freshman bassist Joey Ranieri. And finally, senior violinist Jay So. Thank you again. Our last concert is Thursday next week. You're welcome. We'd love to see you there. Thank you.
Very busy day of the week.
At this time, I'd like to ask Board President Musia Burke to recognize some wonderful parent volunteers for us through our boosters. Each year we are the grateful recipients of the kindness and generosity of so many people on so many fronts, and our booster leaders are certainly among those at the top level.
Thank you. The Board of Education would like to honor a special group of people who play a major role in successes in our schools by providing leadership for parent organizations. Each of these parent leaders is committed to providing excellence in education for students and works tirelessly towards these goals. Under their dedicated leadership, our booster clubs collectively have awarded more than 60 scholarships this spring to deserving District 211 students, totaling over $61,000 in financial aid. Through a variety of fundraisers, including dinner dances, craft fairs, membership drives, and concession sales, our boosters were able to help offset student costs to post-prom events for more than $100,000. All told, District 211 booster clubs collectively raised more than $320,000 during the 2016-2017 school year. 3 of our schools also are fortunate enough to have separate band booster organizations that this year raised over $95,000 and awarded 7 student scholarships. It is my pleasure to be able to introduce these outstanding parent leaders and thank them and their organizations for their commitment. When I call your name, please come forward to receive your club certificate of our appreciation. First is Conant Booster Club President Beata Condre, serving her second year as president. The Conant Band Booster Club president is Kelly Daly. She is not able to be with us today. This is her second year in this role. The club fundraises through their fundraising dinner, membership drives, and dine-out events. Next is Frem Bike Booster President Ed Hansen, who is serving his second year as president. The Viking Boosters are very proud of their annual dinner dance, craft fair fundraisers, and concession sales. Second year Frem Music Association President Rob Coleman is unable to be here this evening. However, accepting the appreciation certificate on his behalf is President-elect Hema Kiwar. FMA hosts a floral design showcase, a band benefit with a dinner and show and trivia night. The Pirate Booster Club president is John Helminski, serving in his first year. The Palatine Boosters' largest fundraisers include a dinner auction event and a craft fair. They also fundraise through concession sales. Hoffman Estates Loyal Parents President Shelley Case, who is also not able to be with us, is also serving her second year as president of HELP, as they are appropriately called. HELP's biggest fundraisers are a trivia game night and a McTeacher night. The Schaumburg VIPs have co-presidents. Janice Novick is serving the second year of her second term as co-president. So that's 4 years total, and co-president Carla Franz is serving her first year. The VIP's largest fundraisers are Trivia Game Night, the Arts and Craft Fair, and concession sales. And last, but certainly not least, the Schaumburg Band Booster Club president is Bobby Welser, and he is serving in his first year in this position. The organization's largest fundraisers include a silent auction, dine-in nights, concession sales, and March of Dimes benefit concerts. On behalf of the Board of Education, I'd like to thank all of our parent leaders for their leadership and all they do for our schools, our students, and our staff. On behalf of the Board of Education, I'd like to congratulate all our students and our staff and our parent leaders this evening. We will take a short 10-minute recess for photographs. Our meeting with citizens' appearances and presentations. Is there anyone in the audience who did not have an opportunity to sign up on the yellow sheet that would like to address the board? We'll, moving forward, we'll begin with Mr. Medea. If you could please state your name, and if you'd like a response from the superintendent, leave your phone number with Mr. Kovac and limit your comments to 5 minutes.
Good evening, Board. My name is Michael Medea, and I live in Schaumburg, and my phone number is 847-885-8748. Let me start out by stating or quoting an old saying: "Evil thrives when good people do nothing." I know we are doing something, but I don't think we're doing enough. My main reason for coming here tonight is to offer some ideas in trying harder to save our kids from drug addiction. I have recently talked to Mark Kovac at 211 about this serious problem, and he has informed me what is currently being done. I think we should do more to get through to these kids about the seriousness of drugs and drug addiction. This is what I would like to see. There should be a district-wide drug addiction awareness week twice a year. This awareness week would have videos, hard-hitting speakers, along with hall posters with clever and informative messages. Hall posters, out in the hallway, so the kids, when they walk by, they see these. These posters should remain up all year and varied in their messages throughout the year. These posters could be a project for the art department. Examples. You can stop drugs by not starting. Drugs will bring you down, down, down. Drugs are for sick people. Are you sick? If not, stay away or you will be sicker than you can imagine. These slogans might seem trite to the seriousness of the problem, but we must get through to these kids in any way we can. When you think of the tragedy these drugs cause, we must never give up in trying to find a solution to save these kids. I think keeping the seriousness of drugs and drug addiction in the face of these kids, it will dampen some of the peer pressure that they are exposed to, and hopefully make them smarter about their arch enemy, drugs and drug addiction. I want to say thank you to the Herald newspaper for bringing this stuff up and keeping this problem in the public's eye. And that's about it, folks. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing. Ms. Sloan?
Hi, I'm Bobby Sloan from Schaumburg, and I just wanted to compliment Monsieur Burke, who I reached out to for some help kind of related to 211, and she helped me. That's it.
Well, thank you. That was very nice. All right, this will bring us to our presentation. Dr. Cates, would you like to introduce?
Tonight we have Greg Ohm. You've met him recently from part of our business partnerships, and he's been working along with Dr. Small and a variety of other industry leaders. Dr. Small is going to lead us through a presentation to update us on the articulation of our career pathways. The career pathways link up our curriculum to a meaningful sequence and alignment of courses throughout a four-year sequence for students. There are a variety of clusters you'll learn about, and then drilling down into the career pathways. Dr. Small.
Thank you, Dr. Cates. I'd like to tell you a little bit about Greg Ohm and why he's here with me tonight. He is the general manager of Bingaman Precision Metal and Spinning, which is an automotive-related prototyping and low-volume stamping industry. The real reason he's here is he's one of our forerunners in partnering with District 211 to really launch our internship program. He has gone above and beyond, not only with his own company of connecting with our students, but to reaching out to other companies to tell them about his experience and try and get them on board with us. What we found along the way across all of our pathways is that when companies hear the word internship, they think college students. And what we're trying to work through is the concept of the ability of our students, the maturity of our students, and the interest of our students and what they can do when they come into the right environment with the right support. So in our world of education, we have tons and tons and tons of things that we do. We want to make sure that our students are prepared when they leave us. We want to make sure they have a great experience while they're with us. And all of these pieces along the way deal with making sure that the student themselves is ready to engage with us, that they feel confident and strong in what they're going forward in, and moving forward to some type of plan in their future. And when we talk about that, the plan in the future, Many times I will get a response back, well, they're too young. I agree. They're too young to make a definitive decision of what their future is. But there's nothing wrong with exploring, seeing what they like, seeing what they're passionate about, thinking about what aptitudes they have, and starting just to generate ideas. And that's what the career pathways are about, getting students to generate ideas and move forward along the way. So as we move forward in this aspect, the student readiness plan, which you've heard about in the past and is getting ready to be developed actually with an RFI that you'll hear about coming at our next board meeting in May, this really focuses on making sure that we look at the whole student, that the student looks at all aspects of themselves, and that their parent is connected to every aspect of the high school education and the pieces behind it. So these 5 components, academic readiness, college and career exploration, student involvement, global competitive skills, and wellness, are the 5 components that if a student, a parent, and the school pays attention to these 5 things across all 4 years of high school, the student's going to be ready when they leave us to make whatever choice it is that they've decided to go forward with. And tonight what we're going to focus on are 2 of them, the first one being the college and career exploration aspect. Through our pathway development, we've looked at a slew of different options for our students to explore the career pathways, the college majors, and see what it is they like and what they don't like. We obviously have started with coursework, which you'll hear about tonight, how we've developed those into pathways. We do interest surveys with them as incoming freshmen as well as throughout their high school career. We have guest speakers who come in, opportunities for part-time jobs, career treks, which is similar to job shadowing, where they go for the day and watch a certain career or a pathway in action within the workplace environment itself. Internships, which is the focus tonight, and then obviously different research that they may do on their own or with some of the resources that we give them along the way. So as students and teenagers move through these options of exploration along the way, they certainly are welcome to change their mind. But one of the pieces, one of the experiences that is probably most valuable for a student is to leave the classroom environment and to go into that workplace situation and see if that's something that they really like. And I've asked Greg to share some of the experiences that he's had with our 211 students as they came into that workplace environment for the first time.
Well, thank you. First of all, this is an opportunity for private industry to jump in and help the school district. And so far it's been a great experience. And internship, by definition, is the service in exchange for experience. And while we pay for the service and not only the experience, but we also like to give them lots of exposure. And I have a young group of guys at the shop, and I had them put together the internship program, and they did a wonderful job, and they knocked it out of the park. And they asked me what I wanted to get out of the internship program, and it was that I wanted the kids to have a great experience and to expose them to anything. So what we did is we came up with 26 easily recognizable job descriptions in our shop, okay? And we broke these up, and we got everybody in the shop involved. And I've noticed, too, that when you involve everybody, you have great success, and everybody's involved. And what we did is that we had 2 interns last year, and each intern got to spend 2.5 days, 2 to 2.5 days with each employee, and this really kept their interest. So they went from learning about quoting to running machines to drafting and CAD designs and milling machines and all exposure to everything. And this took them through the entire summer, and they were never bored. They experienced all kinds of neat things. And then the last 2 weeks, we said to them, well, we're going to choose something for you to do, all right? And this was a little bit more of the mundane things, a little bit more of the repetitive things. And we encouraged them and said, well, here's something that if you don't like this is why you pursue your education, to become more valuable. And then we gave them the choice of running what was their favorite thing to do and what they want to spend the week doing. So then they got to spend the week doing what they thought was one of the funnest and best experiences they had. Every employee was asked to think about their jobs and their positions and how they would spend their time with these kids and explain their jobs to them. And along with that, not only their jobs, but to drill down further into what was related to their job. So for instance, if we had quality control, the CMM machine was a very precise piece of equipment. And well, who makes this and what's involved with it? I mean, there's people that program them, there's people that build it. It's the study of metrology. It's the study of all kinds of things. It's the study of gathering data and analyzing it and seeing statistics of things. So we built on all these things so that if they wanted to continue their education, now they can go out and they see something that they're interested in, and then they can specifically target their education. And that was kind of the whole goal of what we set out to accomplish.
And as he describes it, that's what we want other employers to hear. That experience of an internship, which is different from a part-time job. It's experiencing his whole company and meeting different people in all different roles. And that's part of what we're working toward, is this connection that we have with our manufacturing industry right now is what we're working for each one of our pathways. So that when a student says, I'm really interested in healthcare, in STEM, that we start to help them narrow it down just by going out in the field and experiencing along the way. So where are we in our pathway development? These are the 16 college majors and career clusters that you've seen before. Within these 16, our goal this year was to make sure we had half of them developed by the end of the year in terms of our coursework as well as our community outreach with our local business industry in each one of those sections. So these are the 8 different pathways that we've developed. And what I'd like to kind of go through is the development process so you understand the legwork that's gone behind some of the coursework that you're going to see in an upcoming few slides. So our pathway process includes many different departments, and that is the key to a true pathway development, is that, for example, when manufacturing, we started that pathway, it was beyond just the applied tech department. It was the applied tech department, it was the math department, it was the, we had student services representatives there, we had the science department, and we even had the media center there. Mm-hmm. The media center came to most of our meetings to make sure they had a perspective of what was going on and to add to the conversation. So when you have a multitude of departments, 2 things happen. One, obviously you get multiple perspectives, but more importantly, it starts to connect our teachers to other teachers. High school is traditionally very departmentalized, and this process starts to break down the walls between our teachers and then making connections across the way. So for example, just out of our phase 1 and phase 2 meetings for manufacturing, next year in our 2 manufacturing programs at the start of the school year, we will have math teachers down there at the same time that the manufacturing classes are running to see what kind of connections we can go beyond between our math teachers and our manufacturing teachers. And that happened because of the discussions that we had in our phase 1, which is where we start to create our team, going into the planning, which is phase 2, which is an actual team of teachers across all different departments. We talk about our coursework. We look at the labor market. We look at work-based learning experiences, such as internships that may be available. We look at colleges and what it would take to get into and be successful in a college situation if you were going in that career. And then we start to develop coursework. We look at our dual credit opportunities, certifications that may be available, as well as opportunities for summer school that may enrich some of the opportunities for students who may not be taking advantage of them during the school year because of their scheduling conflicts. In phase 3, we take all the work that we've prepared as teachers and we put it out in front of the local industry. And this is where Greg has been involved in actually 2 of our meetings. He came to our manufacturing local industry meeting as well as our STEM industry meeting to look at different aspects of what have we done as educators, putting it in front of our industry people, and trying to see what has happened along the way from that perspective. After we meet with a local industry, which includes colleges, we have Harper as well as 4-year universities there. We then go back as the planning committee. We go through all of our coursework, make any changes that we should have had, and then we bring suggestions to the curriculum committee, which consists of the department chairs and the principals, and those changes then come forward to you along the way. Our goal is to then have a 3-year review cycle, and during that 3-year review cycle, that's where we have opportunities for bring industry back in, see what has changed along the way, and to make sure that we have not missed anything new, exciting, innovative, as well as Greg can attest, at the end of each one of the industry meetings, I hit each one of them up for an internship in terms of connecting to us as a deeper level. So Greg, anything you'd like to add in that arena?
Yes. As I said, we involved all the employees. And there was a very, very unexpected byproduct out of this whole program that just amazed me. And that was because we involved everybody, each employee was tasked to define their job and what they would share with their interns. This also gave them the opportunity to evaluate their own efficiencies the opportunity to improve on their skill sets and things like this. They found interesting aspects of their job to share. They became more interested in their jobs, and they shared things with them more, and they took more pride in their jobs. So, and they became more involved in projects. So it was really created a much more inclusive environment, and I was amazed. I think this was a healthy event. I think this is something a company should go through. I mean, it was just amazing.
So in terms of us reaching out to industry leaders, that's one of the areas we obviously do it is within these meetings that we have. Our teachers have connections with local industry. We use that networking piece. Our career advisors who you met last month, or last board meeting, are another networking piece along the way. And then finally, we need people like Greg, who have successful benefits not only to their companies and their own employees to keep spreading the word along the way. At our last manufacturing internship part-time job fair that we just hosted at Schaumburg High School, Greg was there with his team, obviously willing to interview and accept more interns along the way. But he was also introducing me to some other industry leaders who he has connected us to, just because of his own networking to help us along the way. So that is our industry connection. As educators, we are typically very connected in the educational field, and we need people like Greg to help us really reach out and bridge that gap that we have between us and the local industry members. So an example of the end of this process would be the pathway development, and I'm going to go through and show you health sciences right now just as a preview for what's coming up at our next board meeting, where we will go into the health sciences pathways in significantly greater detail. But what we did is we took the cluster of health sciences, and as a group and local industry coming in, we looked at the job market, we looked at the northwest suburbs perspective of our students, as well as we look at what the local industry has out there for them. And we came up with 3 pathways that are supported by our local industry in health sciences. In terms of patient wellness, this goes all the way from being anything from a doctor to a nurse to a certified nursing assistant to a trainer to a nutritionist, anything that deals with a patient in terms of their care. Medical R&D, health information and management. Health information and management is a new area that, not new in terms of what is out there, but new in terms of a labor market gap that is opening for our students should they want to go in that arena. So what we end up are pathways which define our clusters, and then within each one of those pathways, and for example, in patient wellness, we then put forward the coursework that District 211 has available to students within that particular pathway. So a student who wants to explore it, knows what course they should start out with or take. If they like it and want to continue, we give them more choices. If they don't like it, we tell them, go try something else. Go get into a different cluster, a different pathway, explore it, and see what you like along the way. In this particular setup, you'll see in red our dual credit courses. And then in this pathway, we have one new course that we'll be proposing in the future, which is technical communications. We're looking at, we heard that actually across many pathways this past year, looking at really how do you communicate out in the industry and business world at a professional level. So you'll be hearing more about that in the upcoming school year. To give you the other perspective of the other 7 clusters that we worked through up through the end of this year, you can see each one of the clusters in the middle, as well as the pathways that go along with it. Some of them have many pathways, as you see with business management and administration, and you'll see in STEM coming up. Some of them only have a few just because the cluster itself is very narrow, such as marketing, finance, and the cluster development, the large group, the finance, the marketing, the business management, and the administration. Those we follow the 16 clusters that are looked at not only within the state of Illinois, but nationally. When we connect to those 16 clusters, that means some of the assessments that we do with our students through career cruising, as well as other software that's available to us, naturally falls into those names as they go through the self-assessment and kicks out different clusters for them to be interested in. Here are 2 more, arts and communication, as well as manufacturing. And then we have STEM. Obviously, STEM in itself is quite large. We had quite an interesting meeting in terms of, we probably were about 20 teachers sitting in this room across many departments trying to organize our thoughts around science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And if you can picture that type of mindset of that person sitting at the table and us being very linear in our concepts, but then having to pull back very globally to say, what is it our students might be interested in the future, and then what is it that we have to offer them along the way. And finally, we have interactive and information technology, which is, again, pretty broad in terms of the IT world and what we have available for our students. So where do we go from here? In terms of the next steps of our student readiness plan, which you'll start to hear more about, I'd also like to talk about our global competitive skills. So when the industry members such as Greg came to the table in this boardroom and sat down and talked to us about our curriculum, about our outlook of where we were going with our kids, one of the pieces we also asked them is about workplace skills. And we said, what is important to your industry? What are your priorities? What do you see that your current employees are lacking that the high schools can do a better job with? And we were talking about even employees that had graduated from college and were in the career field. It was just what are they lacking that we can continue to practice with them at the high school level. So the assessment that their businesses took dealt with these global competitive skills, in which we asked them to rank them and tell us what is most important. So we are halfway done with our assessment because we are halfway done with our clusters. So we have a 50% perspective on these global competitive skills that are out there. I will tell you that 3 things have come out that are patterns so far that are common across all 8 of the clusters that we saw. One of which is that professional communications, whether it be in writing, presenting, the work ethic behind, I shouldn't say work ethic, it's professionalism. It's the student being able to come across professionally in whatever arena they are, whether they're writing, whether they're speaking to you, or however they happen to be communicating. And whenever I see Greg, he always has a story for me. And I asked him at this point to share, he is all over the workplace skills. I asked him to share a story about one of his interns and the experience he had in helping them in the workplace skills.
Yeah. This is very familiar to me. I mean, I've filled out many surveys, and these are, topics that I've written down, and I hope I was consistent in filling out my forms. Mm-hmm. One of them is that we had an intern, and we had 2 interns actually, and they both suffered from the same thing. And we have to do timesheets, and in the business, in this business, we need handwriting, and handwriting is very important to us because they'll be out in the shop, and we may need to write on a print, or we may need to send a message to somebody else, or we may need to update something, and so the skills of the writing is very important. And I couldn't read these guys' writing. It was terrible. And so I spent the afternoon and I gathered up Civil War letters. And we spent the time, and we looked at them, we read them, and we said how elegant they are, how beautiful they were, the penmanship, the grammar, and we just observed them and we looked at them. And I told the guys, I said, you can do this, And I said, I'm going to expect you to take your time and to do this. And I said, and not to mention that if I can't read it, I'm not going to pay you. But that I can't hold against them, but that was just a threat. But needless to say that they came through, and I had neat handwriting in a day. And so the skills are there. Everyone's done their jobs. The skills are there. They just chose not to use them. So we dragged it out of them, and they were there. And it was a lot of it was just telling them to slow down, take your time. It takes effort to write neatly and things like this. And it was wonderful. It was just spending the time and showing them these things was a good experience also.
So it's kind of the parent, the teacher, the workplace. Parents tell us as educators, you tell them because they never listen to me. We look at the employers and we say, you tell them because they don't listen to us. It's that whatever experience has the most value to the student is when it actually clicks in their head. And what's interesting about what Greg has said is they have it. They're just not showing it. And for some of them, they're not applying those skills that they might have experienced within one class to another class to that workplace environment. So to give you an example of what we're doing with presentation and speaking this summer. So I'm gathering teachers from every department. This is part of our summer curriculum project. We're going to look for some common verbiage and expectation in presentation and speaking skills. So if the student is in a business class doing a presentation, an English class doing a presentation, an applied tech class, a world language class, they're going to hear the same verbiage and expectation at each one of those classes, with the hope that they start to connect what they're doing to whatever situation they're in. And that's one of the problems we have in a classroom, is students succeed in this small classroom environment where everything is very controlled, yet they don't transfer it over into the next room. They think about speaking in their English class and in their business class, yet when they get into their math class and they're presenting a problem at the board or any other class where they're doing some type of presentation, they suddenly lose it. And that's the concept that we're trying to get through if each one of our teachers has a similar level of expectation and is using the same verbiage as they ask students to present in front of them. And then we'll work our way through some of the other higher level global competitive skills in that arena in terms of a constant message across as we go through. Two other areas that were common across the 8 clusters that we worked through this year, besides this professional communication, would also be a career awareness, that our students, through our teachers and our coursework, have more connection to what careers are out there. There are obvious ones that they just grow up knowing, but there are millions of other ones that they don't really have any experience yet, but could potentially be there along the way. So what we're looking to do with our teachers is we are looking at opportunities for them to connect to more industry leaders and get that career connection. One of the industry courses that you'll see on your docket tonight is actually for the pathways and career connections, where part of their assignment within those industry courses will be to go out to industry and actually connect with those careers so that they can better represent them within the classroom. And our third common theme that came across the 8 pathways that, or the 8 clusters that we worked with this past year, was a world awareness. That students need to be very aware geographically, culturally, of the entire world around them, as opposed to just their own local community or their own country. That was very strong across each one of our pathways that we worked through for many different reasons. For example, in the health science arena, it was a more cultural understanding, not necessarily of speaking the language of whatever person you are working with, but understanding their culture and being able to bridge that gap along the way. So those were the arenas within our global competitive skills, and you'll be hearing more about that within the future. So when we ask our students to explore their options, we're really talking about all the options that are out there. There's no pigeonholing our students. It's looking at saying all the different things that District 211 has to offer you, let's start exploring them. And if you like it, keep diving into it. And if you don't like it, let's head into something else. Everybody at some point in their life is going to hit a career. And if it's when they leave us and they're 18, we hope it's a career placement as opposed to just a job, something that they want to do, something that can lead them to further steps. And if they go into a college right after they leave us, we hope that at that time they have some choices that they can make in terms of a college major or what they want to study, that they've already done some background work with us at the high school level when the courses are still free and they're not paying tuition on them. But all along of our setup, we know that students change their mind. But as they change their mind, we want to have other options available for them along the way. So thank you for hearing our update on our pathways, and we will entertain any questions.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
Yeah, I had a quick question. With regard to the professionalism and teaching that in the classroom, do we have, obviously we have the teachers that are there modeling professionalism on a daily basis in and out, and I'm guessing that most of them aren't using a chalkboard and showing any handwriting or cursive. Will we be setting a standard for the teachers as well for modeling that professionalism in the classroom, or are we just targeting the students?
Well, the professionalism we're talking about is professional communication, and that at that arena, it certainly would be handwriting, and even though our students are on iPads, they are writing on iPads, so that aspect is there. Certainly, when we are talking about a common language across our departments, that common language is the language of the teachers in terms of the expectation of them as well as what their students would have.
What is some of the receptiveness of the students and the parents to the clusters and pathways, sort of as you move forward with them and develop?
it is an organized way for a parent and a student to understand all the coursework that we have. And I think the first step when a parent and a student starts to, as all of our incoming freshmen have done, taking a self-assessment survey that kicks out 2 clusters for them just to think about, that then launches them into our coursework, and that is a very positive experience that we have along the way. The other potential, what we have done in the past, is that we have handed them a list of courses and said, here you go, pick what you want. Which, sure, if you know what you want, that's something that may be helpful, but what we're trying to do is have them experience it from that end.
Anyone else?
You mentioned staff reaching out to industry. How do you envision that working? Is that something they'd be doing during the day or after hours, on weekends? When they're in the classroom? I'm curious.
All of those occur. So right now we have certain departments that it naturally happens. For example, in applied tech, it is naturally occurring. Greg's original connection to us was through when we started developing our manufacturing program and bringing in the local industry to help make sure that we were on the right track with what we were producing or what we were putting in terms of equipment in front of our students. That happened during the day, after school, on weekends, they're emailing each other. It happens at all aspects of the day. In some of our competitive, like our robot rumble, as well as like our high mileage vehicles that just went off this past weekend at the Joliet racetrack, that brings in other industry members, whether it be after school working with our clubs, meeting us at the competition to see what the kids are doing. It is infiltrated all throughout. Guest speakers that come in during the day. So our guest speakers that come in during the day could be set up by our career advisors. It could be set up by an industry connection one of our teachers has.
Right, but you were referring to the teachers getting that experience with the industry, and that's what I was trying to figure out.
So that would occur during the summer.
Okay.
That connection on that end. We are currently, District 211 is working through the Joyce Foundation, which networks us, District 211, 214 as the northwest suburbs, with Madison, Rockford, and Columbus, Ohio. And through that umbrella grant, which is what is supporting our student readiness plan, we talk about all the opportunities that other regions have for their teachers out there. One of the perspectives that actually used to be done in District 211 when I was a young teacher many years ago were teacher externships, where during the summer, teachers would actually go to a company or a industry for an extended amount of time, whether it be a week, whether it be, 5 Mondays of the month, similar to what Greg has provided for our students in an internship at a shorter level with our teachers going out there.
I would say that your faculty and your teachers are very accessible. I mean, anytime, it's just a matter of sending a note or dropping a note, and arrangements are made. I mean, if industry wants to meet or get together for something positive to happen, they make it work. I find everybody to be very accessible.
Thank you.
I think what students are being offered is just phenomenal, and thank you to yourself and to the other business community members for welcoming our students and being part of this. That is phenomenal. The question I have is, since we're working on the clusters and the course curriculums, have you seen a change between what students are taking now and maybe what they're going to be taking next year? Where are we losing some classes? Are we picking some things up? Are we expanding on some of them?
So I would say we certainly do have fluctuations of our courses depending on where students select. What we don't do is we don't remove courses unless they don't belong in that curriculum sequence. So for example, if there was a course such as, let's just take medterms for example, because we'll be talking about medterms next board meeting. If medterms doesn't run at one school just because there weren't enough students interested in it for that particular year, it doesn't mean that the following year medterms disappears off of that option. It is still there. So I think that cycle that we've always lived in as Mark and I do the tallies, I think that will continue. There are some courses that just tend to have a large number of students interested in them constantly. We hope that as our new courses come through, that they're strong and there's enough kids to run those courses for the interest. But I have a feeling we'll still see those fluctuations of some of the more specific courses that have a very narrow focus.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
This will bring us to our consent agenda. I'd like to take it in two motions. The first suggested motion is that the consent agenda with the removal of the minutes of the regular meeting of April 27, 2017 be approved as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Dombrowski?
Aye.
Mr. Hinshaw?
Aye.
Mrs. Klimkowitz?
Aye.
Mr. LaFever?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mrs. Burke?
Aye. The second suggested motion is that the minutes of the regular meeting of April 27, 2017 be approved and placed on file.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Dombrowski?
Aye.
Mr. Hinshaw?
Aye.
Mrs. Klimkowitz?
Aye.
Mr. LaFever?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mrs. Burke?
Aye. This will bring us to our special reports and communication. We have our Freedom of Information Act requests for any questions or comments. We also have our North Cook Intermediate Service Center compliance review. Any questions or comments? Dr. Cates?
I wanted to just take a moment to recognize the work of so many administrators, both here at the central office and across the district. A compliance review itself is, always a helpful self-examination, but I would also, to give you a scope of anything, just to give you a perspective, every one of those boxes that's listed in those, tens of pages includes content and process, and so many administrators, pulled together all of that information to help really represent the district and what it is that we do here every day for students. The compliance reviewers visit schools across the state. That is what they do. And they remarked very favorably about the wonderful things that they saw here happening for students. And I just wanted to take a moment to, thank the board for all that you support. That does not happen. We're not able to offer these opportunities and these connections if you do not help us and support us in all that you do and our deliberate planning for the years looking ahead. So, when compliance reviewers convey the positive thoughts that they did, we want to just acknowledge the work of so many people, teachers, administrators, and certainly the support of the board. So thank you.
I'd like to make a comment because you can't do all of that without the leadership. So I think Dr. Cates, you've done a lot to bring the strategic plan forward, a variety of other actions, the interactions with the students and the schools, and I think it's important when they highlighted about the schools working together, not as just independent buildings, but there was the commonality and the support and everything with it. So thank you to yourself and to the staff.
Thank you.
Okay, this will bring us to our unfinished business. The first item is board liaisons. For your information, any questions or comments?
Will we continue to keep the Budget and Finance Committee meeting open?
Yes.
Okay.
This will bring us to our 2017-2018 tentative budget, Illinois Municipal Retirement and Working Cash Funds. This was also for our information. Do you have any questions or comments? Okay, moving on to new business. We have our Curriculum Committee report. The suggested motion is that the Curriculum Committee report and the recommendations be approved as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Do we have any discussion?
I do have one question in regards to it. It was the NCAA audit. Can you talk a little bit about that? What does that mean?
Sure.
The NCAA is the governing body over competitive collegiate athletics. They oversee the path that our high school students who intend to participate in collegiate athletics follow in order to be eligible to compete. And so they review our curriculum and determine, according to their standards, which courses students can participate in that would lead them to that eligibility. They regularly conduct audits of the courses that they have approved and compare them to their current standards. In their most recent audit of our previously approved courses, there were a few that stood out that they called attention to and said, we will recognize them through the end of the 16-17 school year, but moving forward beyond that, they will not recognize them as meeting eligibility standards. So there is a process for us to go through to appeal that decision. We're pursuing that, and we will see where it leads us. In the meantime, our counselors are working with students to make sure that they follow a course plan that keeps them in good standing to meet their objectives.
Thank you.
Can you give us an example of a course that didn't meet their standards?
Yes, they're in the English department. One that stands out is called Rhetoric of Cinema. In order to be in good standing with NCAA, the course has to be deemed a core course. And in their determination, Rhetoric of Cinema is not attending to the requisite traditional English skills. I'll phrase it that way. It is seen as kind of an extra as opposed to a core.
I just actually have the appeal is sitting on my desk waiting for Dan's signature tomorrow. Our English department has gotten together to look at the courses that were audited and taken off the list. And what they do is we have a variety of English courses that we offer to our students that are NCAA approved. And when they look at this course, for example, Rhetoric of Cinema, they look at what the NCAA has said, this is what you're missing in order for us to approve. And the discussion then occurs is, what will that do to our curriculum and the essence of this course if we put all this in? And if our students have other options, how much should we put in and how much will it change our course? And it will become something different. So that's the discussion that they have. They look at what the Rhetoric of Cinema has to offer all of our students. They make whatever changes that can keep the core of the course the same, but potentially meet the NCAA standards, and that's what we submit for the next round of audit. But what we always look for is, let's say that course comes back and it is not approved, there are still other courses for the student who is of a particular level that can take an NCAA course to keep them in good standing as they go off into their collegiate career.
In the curriculum committee report, there was reference made to the student readiness plan, which I know you talked a little bit about a couple components of that earlier. Could one of you sort of update us on, I guess, what role the guidance department had relative to the committee and sort of where the plan stands in general?
I'll go first.
Okay.
This is an active pursuit. The student readiness plan is occupying the attention of not just folks in the guidance department, but across our departments. The components of the plan have been clearly identified, the 5 major components of readiness. The goals that we have set forth for students to achieve within each of those spheres have been declared, and the standards for students are firmly established. We are now embarking on identifying a vendor who will work with us to create the actual interface, and we intend to bring that declarative position to you later this month. In the meantime, there is ongoing development of, I'll use the term curriculum, by our guidance staff to refashion the way that we work with students and engage them through the high school experience and integrate the readiness plan into that process. So that's going to take place this summer as one of the summer curriculum projects. We have had some preliminary sessions to get everybody aligned and working together as a team. As a matter of fact, I'm meeting again prior to the end of the school year during final exams week with a core group of people to talk specifically about the integration of career cruising as one of the tools that we use to help guide student decision making. Lisa, you may have some other things to add to that.
if all goes well in the timeline that Mark and I have in our minds, we would do a phase 1 rollout with a pilot group at every one of our schools, probably in October, November, prior to course selection, because that's a main component that falls in naturally with the student readiness plan. We have then the remainder of that year to have a 2 more phase rollout for different aspects of the plan, with our hope that the following year we are ready for a full implementation.
It'll be 18, 19. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
We have a sampling coming up in the 17, 18 school year, but the full rollout
Full
yet.
rollout would
Mhm.
be, you're hoping for, you're planning
That's
for
our-
18,
that's our
19.
plan.
That's correct.
So I want to just connect a few of the dots on this because you're hearing about a lot of the major work that we're doing throughout the course of this year, but it really all integrates together for a result of those partnerships. So because, I attended some P20 meetings where they're looking at the sequence of the education system from preschool up through grade 20, we made connections with some people at Northern Illinois University, and I went to them, and they came to us, and Dr. Small submitted a grant, and we worked through them, and that was what you heard about earlier was the Joyce Foundation, and their work with us to help fund significantly this readiness plan. And this is on the edge, and there's a great deal of interest from other locales about our readiness plan. And neither Mark nor Lisa are stating that, but it does have great interest from other places as well for the way that it integrates information for students and parents to connect all of those pathways and integrated student interests as well as matters of wellness and the professionalism and the global competitive skills we talked about. So many different fronts came together by virtue of us opening doors and lowering walls and then really reaching out. So that is exactly how we have gotten to where we are.
May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Hinshaw,
Aye.
Mrs. Klimkowitz,
Aye.
Mr. Young,
Aye.
Mr. Lefevre,
Aye.
Mr. Dombrowski,
Aye.
Mrs. Burke.
Aye. Early morning work sessions for 2017-2018 school year. The suggested motion is that the Board of Education authorize the superintendent to approve 12 morning work sessions, each of which would be 75 minutes of the following Tuesdays: August 22nd, 2017, September 5th, 2017, September 19th, 2017, October 3rd, 2017, October 17th, 2017, November 7th, 2017, January 23rd, 2018, February 6th, 2018, February 20th, 2018, March 6th, 2018, March 20th, 2018, and April 17th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I do have one question. This particular work session goes a little bit longer than we did this particular school year. Is there a particular reason?
Yeah, the teachers were requesting an opportunity to review some of the student data in anticipation of the upcoming, right now, what is the end of year district benchmark assessments, and they wanted to have some meeting time closer to the end of the school year. So it is adjusted a bit, and each year we learn a little bit more.
Thank you. Anyone else? May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Dombrowski,
Aye.
Mr. Lefevre,
Aye.
Mrs. Klimkowitz,
Aye.
Mr. Young,
Aye.
Mr. Hinshaw,
Aye.
Mrs. Burke.
Aye. We now have the Northwest Suburban Special Education Organization budget. The suggested motion is that the Board of Education ratifies the NSSEO budget for the 2017-2018 fiscal year and agrees to pay the district's proportionate share of the budget revenues.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I'd like to thank Mrs. Klimkowitz for her work on all her information and budget for NSACO for us as a board. She really keeps us informed, so thank you. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Lefevre,
Aye.
Mr. Hinshaw,
Aye.
Mrs. Klimkowitz,
Aye.
Mr. Dombrowski?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mrs. Burke?
Aye. We have our Medicaid reimbursement. The suggested motion is that the Board of Education authorizes a new 3-year contract with Go Solutions Group, Inc. for the school-based services beginning with the 2017-2018 fiscal year.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Did we bid this out and solicit this?
We did. We were in contact with 5 different vendors. Go Solutions was equally the better provider, but they also were the lowest rates. There are a couple different ways to calculate rates. One is a flat-out commission, and the other is by a per-claim submission. So they're different.
So did we request, did the district request from all 5 that they provide a similar response?
We examined the commission rates and the costs of the charges across the 5 companies.
But we didn't solicit or request a certain format in a response for this?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
We've been with them for a couple of years then, correct?
For, numerous years. And they provided reliable quality.
And they've been accurate, and we've gotten the results and the checks on time and things of that nature.
Yes.
Thank you.
May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mr. Dombrowski?
Aye.
Mr. LaFever?
Aye.
Mrs. Klimkowitz?
Aye.
Mr. Hinshaw?
Aye.
Mrs. Burke?
Aye. Sale of surplus school property. The suggested motion is that the Board of Education authorize the sale of used surplus food service equipment to March Used and New Food Services Equipment Company in the amount of $10,740.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? May I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Klimkowitz?
Aye.
Mr. Hinshaw?
Aye.
Mr. Dombrowski?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mr. LaFever?
Aye.
Mrs. Burke?
Aye. Any potential topics for discussion anyone like to bring up? Okay. Moving on, we have our committee reports. Mrs. Klimkowitz with NSSEO.
Okay, just very briefly for NSSEO. We had the Shining Stars, which is the highlight for NSSEO meetings, and we had 3 young men who received their Eagle Scout Award, and they did some different activities. There was one young man, he did some fire pits over at Sunrise Lake Outdoor Education Center. And I really think we need to take a field trip there, because you'd be amazed at what they've done and how they've freshened it over the years. Anyhow, this young man, he's a student who's wheelchair bound, involved in his scouting, and he gave us a wonderful presentation on how they redid the old fire pits and put in the new ones. And it gives the kids such a wonderful opportunity of being camping for our special needs students. The second one was a young man who did adaptive catapult and archery sets for the students at Kirk. So he had the bow on a piece of wood, and then you can put your arrow in there, and it helps. There's kind of a release for it. They made 10 archery sets. The group did, and they made the safety arrows, and they also developed a storage unit. So it really allows the students with the limited upper extremity mobility and strength to participate in throwing things with the catapult and the archery activity. So that was phenomenal. And the third young man, he did a project for Timber Ridge School, and he installed 2 giant chessboards outside by the playground. And he had the giant chess pieces. He also developed a storage bench, a storage shed and benches, so the kids can come out there and play chess, which is absolutely phenomenal, because the students over at Timber Ridge, they have some behavioral issues. So it's wonderful to get them engaged in some of the other things. So they did a phenomenal job. And then lastly, we will be meeting on May 31st. That will be our June meeting. And we'll have the architect, Ruck Pate, who is going to meet with the board and give a brief presentation about the how we move forward with the gym at Timber Ridge. So that's the architectural firm that's going to be doing the work for us there. Thank you.
Great.
Thanks. We have the Ed Red. Would Dr. Cates or Mrs. Hummel like to report on that? Any recent activity?
The latest discussion earlier today, there was a group of meetings that included discussion again of the school funding formula. It functionally hinges on Chicago. So there are a lot of different ways that the Chicago funding is included or excluded or incorporated or accommodated, and those differing approaches seem to be what is holding up the school funding discussions. So that's the latest from today.
Thank you. This brings us to our announcements and upcoming events for your review. Lots of year-end events, so thank you for everyone for going out to a lot of events and graduations, so exciting time of year. This will bring us to entering closed session. The suggested motion is that the Board of Education enter closed session to discuss the minutes of meetings lawfully closed under the Open Meetings Act, appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, matter relating to an individual student, and collective negotiating matters between the public body and its group of 4 athletic trainers or their representatives.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Dombrowski?
Aye.
Mr. Hinshaw?
Aye.
Mrs. Klinkowitz?
Aye.
Mr. Lefevre?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mrs. Burke?
Aye. Open session.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Dombrowski?
Aye.
Mr. Hinshaw?
Aye.
Mrs. Klimkowitz, aye. Mr. Lefevre?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mrs. Burke?
Aye. There's a suggested motion for that employee James Wojcik be suspended for 2 days without pay. Further, the board secretary notify the said employee in writing of this action by the Board of Education.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Member roll call, please.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mr. Lefevre?
Aye.
Mrs. Klimkowitz, aye. Mr. Dombrowski?
Aye.
Mr. Hinshaw?
Aye.
Mrs. Burke?
Aye. Is there any meeting recap that anyone would like to share? All right, hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.